Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are celebrating Pride Month with a team of superheroes that you might not have heard of before. They are called The Authority, and it is now a DC, I guess, owned by DC, but it was originally a Wildstorm Image comic from the 90s.
Was it Stormwatch?
So Stormwatch was the original run, and that was a team from Wildstorm Comics in the 90s. And then DC bought Wildstorm from Jim Lee and then moved all those properties, whatever ones they wanted, over to DC. So this is their first they renamed the team The Authority because there was a big blowout at the end of that series, so a bunch of people died and everything. So this was kind of the reboot.
We like you, Warren Ellis. We don't want you to not have a job. So
yes. And so this is written by Warren Ellis and the art is by Brian Hitch. So Warren Ellis, we've done Transmetropolitan from him. He's very edgy and stuff, so you could definitely feel that in this. And then also he wrote the first 12 issues of this and then handed it off to Mark Millar, who at the time was fairly new to comics. He'd only written some Swamp Thing, a couple other things like that. But then this was one of his bigger books that everybody liked because the art was by Frank Quietly as well.
Oh, nice.
In that run. So he did 12 issues. And then after that, I think Grant Morrison also wrote some more of it. So there was a lot of big names on this book that you might not have heard of because it's, no one, it's kind of overlooked because it is a Wildstorm book. And that's kind of how they pushed it originally. But the reason why we're doing it for Pride Week is because there is one of the best gay couples I've ever read in a book, in a superhero book, especially in this series called. Their names are Midnighter and Apollo, and they're basically the Batman Superman of this series. I will say in this first story arc that we do, because we start at the very beginning, because we want you guys to have context of the team and everything. There's not much of their relationship in it, but. We will go further just for one page where we actually break down one of their first scenes where they reveal that they are a couple, and then we see that as the reader. So we'll touch on that later. But
yeah, and it's cool to look back, especially after what we've read, and be like, oh wow, this is very much set up that way.
Yeah, if you as a reader, because this came out in 1999, so you got to think of this in context. It is, if you read this now, you're a lot of this stuff has been done already. Yeah, because they're copying The Authority, basically. This is one of the first books that ever had, super violence compared to other DC books, you know? Super, more mature concepts and things like that. The violence is the main thing. And then ideas the team has a female leader who's very strong. There's two other women on the team. And then there's 4 men, but 2 of them are a gay couple. And it's just kind of okay, that's pretty progressive for 1999.
Yeah, so you have a really good mix of people on a team.
Yes. And then you have a spaceship that's sentient too. So
yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, so for the time, this book was pretty groundbreaking. I thought, at least, and especially if you hadn't, I think I first read this in 2005 or 6. And even then, I wasn't well versed enough to mainly indie comics kind of touched on gay characters and stuff. It wasn't so much in the mainstream. There were gay characters in the mainstream. Obviously, if you read more Vertigo stuff, there was definitely that in DC Comics, but that's not considered mainstream. That's their mature line.
Yeah.
This was not labeled mature. So the idea that this was kind of and it's superheroes too. So it's not the weird Swamp Things or Hellblazer. This is supposed to be hey, you like Superman, Batman? Well, check out these guys. They're a little bit more hardcore, and they're also really good and cool and everything. So, that's kind of where this book was coming from. And is Warren Ellis when he was writing the edgiest of the edgy stuff, this is around the time he started. I think he was doing Transmetropolitan for Vertigo around this time too. And so, he's he's getting his edgelord
He's getting his edge on.
cred on. Yeah, exactly. He's getting his edge on. So, yeah, this is his superhero book. So yeah, we'll just get right into it. This is a new team, like we said, from Wildstorm. They used to be called Stormwatch. And this book starts with death falling from the sky.
Yes. Yeah, this doesn't pull any punches right away.
Yes, we see Moscow in 1999. I'm assuming is the year, and and it's cold as it is in Moscow, Russia. And then all of a sudden you see it looks like at first like missiles or something flying out of nowhere from the sky, and then all of a sudden the place explodes. Like the what is that called? The
Kremlin?
St. Basil's.
The cathedral.
Yeah, the cathedral, St. Basil's. That gets blown up and everything. Of course, what else are you going to show get blown up in Moscow?
Yeah.
But very iconic. The Red Square, I guess, that's where it is. And so that gets blown up. We see people just vaporizing in this Holocaust, basically.
Yeah, it very much felt. The images were like, it made me think like Terminator 2 with the.
Oh yeah. Dude, they totally referenced that. Now that you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Because you see this skeleton like flying backwards with arms stretched out. You're like, yeah, that's totally Terminator 2. And they're murdering children, like everything, and like you said, it kind of looks like missiles at first, but then as they get on the ground, we see that they're actually a bunch of different people that look very similar, and they all have like unitards on that are black and that cover everything except their heads and neck. And they have a certain symbol on it that it looks like a ring, but it's got 3 dots around the circle. And so, yeah, that's like the beginning of this is just death and chaos in Moscow. And then we cut to New York City, where we get 2 characters who I'm assuming were like pretty big in Stormwatch. What were their names again, John?
We got Christine and Jackson. They work for the Superhuman Security and Intelligence Office.
Yeah, and they're kind of like the government part. I guess they used to work with Stormwatch, or maybe part of Stormwatch.
And now they kind of work with NATO more.
Yeah, because what they kind of reveal in this was that Stormwatch, which was a superhero team before, they had a big fallout or whatever where like a bunch of them died and all this stuff happened, and so Stormwatch is no more. Ergo, these guys now have a job working for the UN, and they're kind of like intelligence gatherers and whatnot. And while they kind of explain that to the reader, because once again, this is like, hey, we're launching a new series, as DC called The Authority, so they want to give you all that backstory. They're talking, and all of a sudden, someone bursts in the room, like through a portal. Like a portal just opens up out of nowhere and just like, poof, hey guys, what's up? And it's this person named Jenny Sparks, who is the leader of the Authority, and she is British, obviously, because she's wearing a British flag shirt.
You can tell she got that Union Jack shirt on.
Oh yeah, and yeah, she's pretty straightforward right away. She's basically like, hey guys, guess what? I'm starting to team back up, and we need to know all the information about what just happened in Moscow. And so like that's basically. They like give her what they know, but they don't really know that much because it just happened. But they're like, we're pretty sure it's going to happen again. Like these guys are coming out of nowhere, and they just literally vaporized. They said half of Moscow, I guess, but a lot of Moscow. So
James Sparks is like, well, okay, we won't let we got this team going. We won't let that happen again.
Yeah, they're like we thought Stormwatch was gone, and she's like, oh no, like don't worry, we won't let it happen again. We got a new team. It's all good. So. That's a lot to throw on that plate because you're kind of like, well, how are they going to stop it? They didn't really give them that much information to go on. So it's like, how are they going to know where they're going to attack next? And then we cut to this place called Gamora Island, which is in the Asian Pacific area, I guess.
I assume so.
I don't know. I'm assuming.
And we're kind of assuming this more or less because of the villain from this. It's very much like the classic
Asian bad guy.
yeah. They very much I assume they did it as like a callback bad guy.
Yeah,
as far as like to like the ode to classic comics of like it's like the Mandarin or
it's definitely of that lineage.
Yeah,
I mean it's a Asian dude with a big goatee and a Fu Manchu mustache and like robes and a big hat.
Definitely the 90s when this is the last time you could do something like that.
Yes. He's got long fingernails and everything. So he basically breaks down like who he is, what he's doing. This is the bad guy. His name is, what is it again? Katzen, right? Or Kaizen.
Kaizen.
And his name is Kaizen Gamora. which is why it's called Gamora Island. Apparently, him and his brothers took this island over, and it used to be called Paruja. Is that right? Paruja?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not good at pronouncing things, but so they took it over, and it says like, you know, we were born. Then when we were like 15, we like took control of our town. Then when we were 25, we took control of like this side of the island. Then when we were like 35, we took over the whole island, and then I murdered my brothers, and now I'm awesome, and I am the king of this island or whatever. And so it turns out that the symbol that was on the shirt of the people that attacked Moscow is the symbol that represents these three brothers in a circle. So like there's three knots and there's a circle. And he kind of makes it seem like I'm honoring my brothers by killing people and shit, but he's the one who killed his brothers. So
yeah,
I don't know why it doesn't seem like he really cared about his brothers. Like he cares about them now that they're gone, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't seem like anything like I don't know why he cares so much, but it's just bad guy, you know, like they're just throwing that out there as this new series. And then we see like, yeah, all the people that attacked Moscow, he's got hundreds of thousands maybe of these, or at least tens of thousands.
At least
a lot of these people, because they say like there's a battalion here, a battalion there, you know, there's lots and lots of these people, and they all look the same. They all look very, very similar. And like I said, they all have the same unitard too. So it's very like, this reminded me of the Master Race, actually, the Dark Knight Master Race.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
when the Kryptonians kind of all have the similar uniform, and there's a lot of them and
that's
stuff.
right.
Very, very much similar to that. So at least just the kind of look of it or whatever. Go check out that episode, Dark Knight Master Race. It's a good one. In fact, go check out all the Dark Knight.
Yeah,
episodes.
we did the whole Frank Miller run,
And we'll do the next one whenever he gets it. Oh, speaking of, I don't know if you heard, but Frank Miller is starting his own publishing company.
Oh,
He's going to be starting putting out some new work again.
interesting.
Yeah, him and the old, or not the, well, I guess it's the old now, but the guy who ran DC for like since 2005 to 2019 or whatever, or 2020, Dan Didio. Didio? I don't know. Dan Didio. He's starting a company with him, and they're going to like start putting their own books out and stuff. So I'm like, interesting. That's cool.
A name recognition alone for Frank Miller.
I know, I'll buy it. Fuck it.
Sure,
You know? Who knows? But yeah, so then we cut back to Jenny talking to the UN intelligence people, Christine and Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, once again, they're not able to give her a lot of stuff, but basically, she's like, all right, thanks for your help. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to bring them to the Authority. And that's where we get the name of the team.
And she steps back through the portal and disappears.
Yes. And then we follow Jenny through that portal to see where she ends up. And we are in like some kind of control room where there's the rest of the Authority, or at least some of them, waiting. And we get like, there's a girl with wings there. Her name is Swift. We're not really introduced to them yet, but we're just kind of like, she's talking to them. And there's another guy named Hawksmoor, right? What's his first name? Jack Hawksmoor. And we don't know what he does either, but you know, they seem to be chummy, and I think they are the three original members from the actual team of Stormwatch that are left alive. So that's why they are together. And like we said, they're in some kind of weird room that has very 90s digital art for like the portals on the wall. Which I thought was funny.
It 100% looks like one of those equalizers you had in your computer playing when you played music. And
oh, yeah, totally. Like the lava lamp.
Yeah, you're like, oh, man, that's so cool. I got to get every skin for this.
I can listen to Tool and have a visual experience.
Yeah, guys, when to come to my house and check this out. Like,
yeah, totally.
Listen to music and get a show.
Yes.
With these crazy lights.
So because of that, we're like, okay, so this is the room where she came through a portal, but we find out that they're actually in this place called the Junction Room inside of the carrier. We don't really know what that is yet, but we're assuming their ship. And then she talks to Jack Hawksmoor and was like, hey, why don't you go help out the people in Moscow who are still like trapped and shit. So Jack Hawksmoor goes through a portal, goes to Moscow, and as he pops out, he's just kind of going around the city looking around, and he sees like on one of the walls emblazoned, like burned into the stone, is that circle that with the three knots on it. So it's like the symbol of Gamora. And we get to see a bit of his power as he kind of like touches the wall around that symbol. Basically, he is, for all intents and purposes, like the conduit of a city. So like he's powered by like the life of a city, we'll say. I'm not exactly sure exactly what that means in context to everything later on, but as of right now, he can like, he touches the wall and it like the city talks to him about what happened. He gets like feelings of, you know, oh, there are people still alive and things like that, and like where they're at and where they're alive and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. It seems like maybe when he's fighting, depending on what city he's in, it might give him more power or less power depending on how big that city is. So things like that. Like if he's in New York, you might have different power sets than if you're in London or, you know, Paris or something. So
it's a very interesting. I've never seen a power.
Yeah, they don't go into it too much. They just show him like punching fucking through people's faces and shit. So like obviously whatever city he's fighting in later, like that's, you know, this extra powerful. So, and then we get introduced to as we cut back to the Carrier and Jenny Sparks, we get introduced to another character named the Engineer, and she's actually the second engineer, and apparently she like is a doctor who replaced her blood with like nano oil, we'll say, like nanites.
Yeah, some kind of nanotechnology.
Yeah, and it basically gives her the power to transform into anything kind of thing. So what it seems like she can make her limbs whatever. She can put on like make her skin armor, which is what she normally looks like. Is she has like a steel coating on the outside of her that she's naked under, because later they reveal that when she comes out and changes into her human form, she's naked, and Jack has to give her his coat.
Yeah.
So like, and that was another thing. I was like, this is pretty risque, just because they literally draw nipples on her later on, like while she's fighting or whatever. I was like, that's interesting. I don't think they would do that nowadays. Like, I mean, we all see like the skin tight costumes on men and women in these, but very rarely do they actually draw the nipples in like just rings on the breasts. So it's kind of interesting that they did that. But you know, this was edgy. We're going for edgy in this, you know. So we get to see her, and she's talking about like you know, the mechanics of the ship, basically, right? Like all that kind of stuff. Then we cut to another guy on the team that we haven't seen before, and this is a guy called the Shaman, and he's at the moment talking to the god of all shamans, or it's like past shamans that are now in like the ethereal realm that he can like confer with, tap into, and they give him his power, which is kind of cool. It's very like interesting psychedelic kind of power.
He's known as the shaman and also the doctor. Like he's got a
that's right. Oh yeah, that's right. They call him the shaman sometimes, but mostly he's called the doctor. So and he's a relatively new character on this team as well. So we get kind of like a little bit glimpses of their power, but not too much. And then we get introduced to the Batman Superman team of this group. It is the Midnighter and Apollo. And Midnighter looks a lot like Batman, but he wears a trench coat, and his cowl does not have ears. It looks more like a helmet, like a Captain America from Ultimates or something.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So and he's got like spikes on his gloves and stuff. So like,
if you punch it punches you, you're gonna get spikes in your face.
Yes, and his power is the ability. It's kind of like chess. Like he can know your moves like way before you do anything. So like he says to a couple of people later on, like you could try to move, but I've already calculated like 1,000 different ways you would attack me, and I can combat all of them. So I'm just going to beat the shit out of you now. And then he's like, like
yeah, it's like literally like instant KO for most of the people that fight him.
Yeah. And
try to lay a hand on him, we'll say.
Yes. And then the other guy, Apollo, is basically the Superman equivalent. He does get recharged from the sun, just like Superman. Maybe not as, and he doesn't depend on the sun as much as Superman. But we read a thing on Wikipedia that said they're both bioengineered people. So they were experimented on somehow. They don't go into that in this. arc, but maybe later on they talk about that. But that's how they got their powers. And they are a couple. They don't reveal that really in this. We do see them talking, and we kind of like they're introduced together.
Yeah, and they bicker a lot. With
Yeah, they
each
bicker
other.
a lot. They call each other, names or whatever. Kind of talk back to each other more than the other people do. And it, when you know that they're a couple, that makes more sense later on when they reveal that it's kind of like, oh, okay, I can go back and see. Oh, they were laying the seeds for all this stuff. But very, very good. And I will say, like this is one of the best couples, or gay couples that I've ever. And this is actually one of the best couples I've read as like a superhero pair in any superhero comic. So I enjoy them a lot, and that's why I was like, let's do them, even though we're not doing the arc where they do become a couple, because I wanted to, introduce you to them proper or whatever. But yeah, so we get introduced to them, and everybody like. All these new people that came into the team, everybody except Jack and Swift and maybe the engineer seem to be like, we don't know what's going on exactly. We're called here by Jenny kind of thing. Yeah. Like we're all brand new and we're starting off without knowing each other very much. And then like we also see the outside of their spaceship, the carrier that they are on. It's not a space. It's an interdimensional ship or whatever, because we find out that the carrier is actually, what's the name of that new movie that came out? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Yes, yeah. It's that, but in a ship, and like literally, it floats around the Earth like it's orbiting, but it also inhabits all other dimensions and
it's in everything. this other realm. I don't remember how to say it. It's like Diva Hacknert realm. They said,
sure,
and basically, it's that it exists and can basically teleport you anywhere that you needed to go, especially on Earth, like, since it's orbiting it.
Yes. That's why it has portals that can open up anywhere.
But also, it is a sentient ship.
Yes. So it has a mind of its own somewhat.
Yeah.
Like the engineer's talking, and she's like in one part, and she's like, I don't know if it's going to let us do that or whatever, because it does what it wants sometimes. So talking to it's kind of interesting. But then we see the second attack, while the Authority are trying to figure out when the next attack's going to happen and where. It's already starting. It's starting in London, and Jenny sees it and is like, oh my God, you don't attack London, you sons of bitches, because she's British. And so they teleport there instantly, which is, I just love that they can be like, where's the attack? Here, let's go. Like they just run through a portal and they're there. Like there's no flying.
Yeah.
It really takes away from the like, how does the Justice League get to like El Salvador? Or whatever, like from Metropolis in.
We know how the Flash Superman gets there, but everyone else.
Yeah, but everybody else is just, just Hawk Girl can't really fly too fast, can she?
Yeah. That's true. When they showed the teams show up at those places, they always show up together.
Yes.
But so does that mean Superman and Flash are like holding back, like, all right, guys, let's go?
Yeah, the skin just rubs off everybody as they fly like almost as fast as the speed of light or whatever.
They're like, everybody hold on.
Yeah.
Clench your butts.
Friction burn. Yeah, so yeah, they all are able to teleport, which is very useful to this to London, where they're attacking again, and they're not letting it happen as bad as it happened before, because like the Authority's there now. Apollo shows up. One thing I like about Apollo is that he's got this like glow on his head at all times, especially when he's fighting. There's just like like an orb of sunshine around his face, which I enjoyed. And then we see him like rush in and attack everybody that are attacking the town or London, and then we see Midnighter come in and he's like grabbing people's faces and shit, and it's like, oh, this is cool. Like, kind of get to see him in action. You see the engineer make like guns out of her hands and like start shooting people, bad people, I should say. Yeah. And these are all the bad guys they're fighting. And then the shaman is like turning, like he explains his powers as like everything is made of matter, right? So all I have to do is be like, you're a bird now, or like your body is now a flock of seagulls or whatever, and they will just turn into that. And it's like, like so he can like change. He's like a matter rearranger kind of, basically. So that's like his power, but he does it magically.
Yeah, I literally, there was a line he said, it was like magic is all a like just a manipulation of matter or something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like it's a science or whatever. But we get the like full introduction of them where like it says Apollo, the Sun King, Midnighter, Night and Bringer of War, the Engineer, the Maker. Yeah. The Doctor,
The Shaman.
Jack Hawksmoor,
The God of the Cities.
Swift,
The Winged Huntress.
and last but not least, Jenny
The
Sparks.
Spirit of the 20th Century.
Yeah, and she's the spirit of the 20th century because she's actually 100 years old, and this is 1999 if you remember. So like this is literally like her 100th birthday coming up, and then she is electrically powered. We find out Jenny Spark was the only one we didn't really know what they did, but yeah, Swift she's got big wings. She's kind of like Hawk Girl, but she like flies around. And then Jack Hawksmoor, this is where we get to see his power in a city. He just punching through people's fucking faces.
Through their faces.
Their head off, jaw missing as his hand punches through the entire
With
brain.
an eyeball
and
popping out.
eyeball popping out, spine hanging out of the back of the guy's head. So pretty hardcore. Yeah, then we get like a full shot of the Authority and they're like, game over. Like we get like a pretty great splash page, I think. Like I said, this is great Brian Hitch art for this. It's like earlier Brian Hitch too. Like before Ultimates. I feel like Ultimates is like his like best, or the stuff that like he's best known for.
Yeah.
And this is just prior to that. So it's not as polished, I think, but it's still solid and everything. Then we start the second issue with like we're still in London. These guys are attacking, and there's a lot of them, like a lot more than just like the 10 that they killed initially. They're just kind of like
It looks like
like
there's like
ants.
100 in the sky.
Yeah, 100, maybe more coming. They don't know. And this was interesting, I thought. So the engineer, because they need to be able to talk on the battlefield, and they can't scream while they're like Apollo's like 100 yards away and is like, Midnighter, hit that guy.
Down over here.
Yeah. Watch your back. Like, so it's like there's no way to talk. So the engineer makes these little bugs, like literal bugs. They look like wasps, and they fly and like sting each person or attack or burrow or something into each of the Authority. And then after that, they could all talk to each other psychically, telepathically.
Telepathically, yeah.
So after that, they all can basically you should just put like a radio in all their heads.
Yeah.
And they're all on the same frequency. So they could talk to each other, which is very useful in combat. I was like, a lot of this is just like, fuck it. We'll just make it easier for us.
Yeah.
Because, we don't need to
Whatever's
explain.
whatever's the thing that makes it work the quickest and easiest, let's do that.
Well, they got a spaceship. They could be everywhere all at once, and they could just go anywhere they need to, automatically. So, So they begin to attack now, being like fully in sync with each other, and this pretty much takes out everybody. I did find it funny that they're attacking everybody, like the bad guys, but at the same time they are still destroying the city because they're fighting super powered people. And
if someone gets thrown through a building,
like they're literally just like later on Apollo takes off after a guy and just flies through Big Ben, and I was like,
all right,
but don't they want to not destroy Big Ben? But it doesn't happen. But the way that they end up defeating these guys is they had a plan, because like I said, they can all talk to each other now. So part of their plan was, we got to get them facing the Thames, like with their backs to the Thames River, and then we will come from the front and kind of herd them in, and then Apollo grabs the ground and breaks it apart that they're standing on, and they all fall in the water. And then Jenny Sparks is like, guess what? Electricity
and water don't go together.
Exactly. And she just kills them all with electricity, which is pretty great. Like, I was just a shot of like it's kind of like if you go fishing with a battery or something. You just throw that sucker in and just see the fish float to the top. Yeah. That's basically what the shot is, which is funny to me. But and then we get like the first kind of introduction of what Midnighter, his powers are, like exactly. This is a pretty cool scene. One of the guys is the guy that's left. One of the bad guys, he has a kid that's hostage, and he's like, "Don't! I'll fucking kill him! Don't! Don't come any closer! Yeah, I'm gonna leave now." And Midnighter's like, "You ain't doing anything. Put the child down." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I've gone through everything you could possibly do, and there's no scenario where you win. And if you don't believe me, just don't do anything. Don't put that kid down." He's like, "I'm not gonna do," and he starts pulling back on the kid's head like he's gonna snap it or something, and then all of a sudden Midnighter's like smiling, and then he just attacks, and you just see like the guy be like, "Ah!" Like, there's not even punches. You just
Yeah.
see the dude's arm backwards and then going the wrong direction, and his teeth are missing, and he's flying backwards with blood coming out of his face and his nose, and his suit is all torn up and everything. So
And the next panel is Midnighter holding the child like, yeah, I told you so.
yeah, exactly. So it's pretty cool way.
It's like instant KO basically.
He's like Batman if the Batman had like a superpower of, actually being able to know exactly what the guy's going to do or whatever.
It's like he's playing one of those Batman games where you can see people attacking you, so you can stop all of them.
Yes. And that guy, as he's like trying to run away, or is it that guy or is it a different guy? I guess it's a different guy. My bad. So there's one more guy who Apollo is fighting, and he like throws him. This is where I say he like throws the guy through Buckingham Palace, is what I think it is.
I think that's Big Ben. Just the tower had already fallen there.
I don't know anything about British architecture or like where they're at. So
Yeah, I think that's Big Ben though.
okay, I thought isn't it not in the same area?
I think Buckingham Palace is down the road from it, but I don't.
Fuck if I know. I don't know. British listeners, tell us.
You act because I've seen Love Actually, a couple dozen times.
John, you've seen that movie too much. Where's Buckingham Palace? So anyway, he throws through something important in historical context of Britain. He throws it through that building, and then the guy lands. And I don't know if anybody knew this, but the way that these guys can actually teleport in and out. That's how they get to there. So, not the Authority, the bad guys can teleport in and out fast. And that's how they're getting to these cities randomly. And they're doing it through their little ring circle on their uniform. So, like, I guess if that's intact, they can go back home really easy. And so Apollo just grabs the guy's shirt. I don't think he knew that it was going to do this.
Yeah.
But because he grabs the guy's shirt and tears it, it fucks up the teleporting thing. And now the guy's like, oh, no. I can't teleport. And so,
yeah, he's like, I can't teleport.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I stopped you from doing something. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And one cool thing about this that they, if you're reading it, and this is a brand new team, so you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Apollo, while he's doing that, gets like a full laser blast to the face from the guy's eyes, and like his head is gone in that blast. You're like, whoa, he's just like, did he blow off his head? What happened? And then we see that Apollo, it didn't really do that much to him. It kind of like winded him for a second. But he wasn't, dead or anything. Like his head did not get blown off. So.
No, his head is in fact still glowing.
Still glowing. He has always got a great glow about him, And so, like I said, that guy, the bad guy, takes off when he realizes, I have to fly home, basically. And so Apollo goes after him, and that's when he flies again through Big Ben. I guess it's already been damaged. And all the other guys that are around that are still alive, they disappear and teleport out. And Apollo is just going full blast after this guy. And Jenny's like, hey, Apollo, abort. Like, don't follow him. I know you want to, like, catch him or whatever, but we don't know where he's going or any of that kind of stuff. And we'll figure that out. Like, we don't need to follow that guy because it might be a trap or something, basically. And then we cut to, I guess it's like the bad guy's lair, Gamora's lair. And we see all these, I guess all the people that teleported just, like, fall injured through like a portal or whatever and into this like secret lair.
Yeah, I like the main room, and there's people there who be like, oh, it's okay, we're gonna take care of you. The Kaiser Gamora or whatever, the main
Kaizen
Gamora. They're like, it's okay. He is proud of you for fighting or whatever. When you see him in the corner, he's like, I hate them all.
Yeah. Yeah, they say like he loves you and he's like, I love no one. Like he's super edgelord. But anyway, so the rest of the Authority team except Apollo go back to Carrier and take one of the portals. Like they follow where the other people teleported from. Like they could catch the signal, their frequency or whatever, where the bad guys teleported to. So they're like, hey, Carrier, open a portal, take us there. So they end up at Gamora, like just above it. And Gamora, or Kaizen Gamora, the bad guy, has protected the entire island with a force field, basically.
Yeah, there's a giant force field.
Yeah. He's like, go to lockdown because they're coming. And so they get there before Apollo and his straggler, the bad guy straggler, get to Gamora.
But only just before, because what happens is hysterical. I really like this.
Yes, this is great. So the Authority see that there is a force field there, but Apollo does not know that, and they're flying 100% like as fast as they can, the bad guy and Apollo, who's chasing the bad guy, at Gamora, because they're like, oh, he's gonna go home. I got to catch him before he lands or whatever. And so they're like, they catch up with, or the authority starts telepathically talking to Apollo, like, abort, you got to abort, and he's not doing it. He's not listening. And so the shaman does some like shaman magic, and and he makes Apollo's body like turn into water or something. I don't know, sparkles. I don't know.
It looks like it starts to disintegrate from the back.
Yeah, basically he atomizes him, so he doesn't, like, he can't follow anymore. And then, like, that's what he does. He puts him in some like weird quantum realm or something. Is what it ends, because he ends up like in a different realm, like
That's right.
another dimension or something, and then he ends up bringing him back like right away. But the reason why he did that is because the force field is stronger than a body, even a super powered body, and we find that out because the straggler bad guy who's flying full force at Gamora, the island, is like, oh my god, the force field's up, and he can't slow down before he runs into it and just splat.
It's like a bug hitting a windshield.
Bug hitting a windshield, splat.
It just splat, but a human being or a person.
Yes, and a bad person.
A bad person.
So one thing I like is right before he hits, he goes, "They raised the curtain. What a lousy day." And then, so like, it's just a funny way to have that guy die. And so yeah, then the shaman has to like go talk to Apollo and be like, "Dude, calm the fuck down. I had to bring you here. Now I'll bring you back. You were gonna die." And Apollo's like, "Oh wow, my bad. I will listen to you from now on. Like, you know what you're talking about, Jenny." So they go back to the ship, and this is kind of, we get like the team building of like, good job guys, we stopped them, but now we got to figure out where they're gonna attack next. We don't know, and we get to see like them in downtime. We see this is where I said we see the engineer turn back into her or like make her skin not metallic, and so she's like naked, and then Jack Hawksmoor is like, "Oh, let me give you my coat and I will let you have it." And then he's like, "I will never wash this thing again." Like, and so yeah, it seems like everybody's got a good rapport and everybody's happy with each other.
Yeah.
We see like Apollo talking to Jenny, and just like you get like the team building, I guess, here, and they kind of explain more about the ship being in like how they're in like different dimensions, but also in orbit around the Earth at the same time. And I'm not going to pretend like I understand it. I am
No. I mean, to be honest, she's just like, man, I'm so glad. Like when I was rebuilding this team, I just happened to come across. I literally happened to come across this like 30 feet long by like
no, it's way bigger than
I'm
that.
sorry, it was 300, maybe it's 300
feet tall
feet,
or whatever.
yeah, by like whatever, like sentient ship that can like take us anywhere.
It's so lucky.
I'm just so
I mean,
lucky,
it was just
like,
floating there, and it let me into it and let us use it as its base, as our base. So like, yeah, it's
so that was
just
fun.
yeah, it's just I kind of appreciate the like glossing over of shit that nowadays would take 12 issues to do, because we got to explain everything, and like even with that explanation, it still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So why? Like just cut to, hey, we got the ship, it works great, we can teleport anywhere we need. There you go.
You know what? This is the one time I will take, just a side little tangent on that. This is the one time I will take the pushback and the like fault on for being a Star Wars fan, because I feel like it's the Star Wars fandom, and myself included, that are like, love all those little Easter eggs, and so love to know how every little thing works in it.
In episode 4,
yeah,
5.
exactly. Or so we'll say Star Wars and Star Trek. But yeah, so like having to know,
you're Justin Long from Galaxy Quest.
Yes,
okay.
Having to know all of those little details, like, and not having, but like wanting to. Then they're like, oh, okay, well, people want that stuff, we'll do it, and so they just kept doing it, and we're like, yeah, and like. So now you see,
and then the normies are like, "What the fuck are metachlorians?"
Yeah, and now we're seeing the crappiness of it too. With I would say it's still a minority, but the very vocal online ones that are like, "This is stupid. How this and this don't work when in this episode it worked like this, and I don't like how it looks now." And like,
yes,
and it's like, it's
sometimes
like,
that stuff is valid.
I know,
sometimes
it is, but then sometimes like, oh god, I wanted this, and now I don't want any of this anymore because of these people.
Because of that.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you get sometimes I just want to read a Swamp Thing story where he punches stuff.
Yes.
And sometimes I want to read the Alan Moore story that I don't quite comprehend because he's talking about a spaceship having sex with him. And it's like, what? Like,
Why?
And that's a real issue. Go check it out. Issue 60. It's a good run. But Alan Moore had Swamp Thing get raped by a spaceship. So,
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
In
Makes
context
total sense.
of that.
Yeah. But like, sometimes I just want to watch a fun thing. And this is definitely like, this is your blockbuster movie of the comic of the year.
By far.
So anyway, we start issue 3 and we're back in London where, now they're the team is helping people in London recover from any of the destruction that happened. And we see the shaman, he goes in and the rescuers are like, no, we already searched that area. There's no one there. And shaman's like, no, there is. I can tell there's people behind this. And like, no, bro, we already checked it. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And he like moves all the rocks out of the way. And then we find 2 people that are just trapped. We're like, they're in a very bad predicament here. Like they're in, I don't know, a basement or an elevator shaft or something that is like maybe 15 feet down. And then there's like, just happens to be a water pipe burst in there. So it's also filling with water at the same time. It's basically like a Saw trap from the movie Saw, like, like Jigsaw made this happen. What do these people do? That's what I want to know. But yeah, so he saves their lives. And then we cut to the carrier where everybody's kind of like, yeah, good job, team. And now they're back to business where they're trying to find out the next city that's going to get attacked. Because they don't know how many cities because they didn't know that Gamora had 2 brothers. But yeah, Kai's and Gamora. And it just so happens that, they saw the symbol now on everybody's shirt and they have that like in their minds. And they have like a 3D representation, like a hologram representation of it in the control room. And then they're like, wait a second, Moscow, London, if we put the 3 rings or the 3 knot ring over the earth and put Moscow on one end, it lines up with London and another city, L.A.
Bumpa, that must be where they're going to attack.
Yeah, so now they know they're going to attack in London. I'm sorry, in L.A. And then we cut to Gamora Island where Kaizen Gamora is watching the footage of the newly established authority. And he's like, what? I thought Stormwatch was dead. Like, because he was, the reason why he did this attack is because he's like, well, Stormwatch isn't here. I mean, perfect time to attack.
Yeah, my time to shine.
Yeah. And so, like he was like, what? How come they're here? Like I thought all these guys were dead. This is bullshit. And then he gets a video call from, I guess it's Kristen and Jackson and some politician from the UN.
Some leader in the UN.
Yeah, and they're like, what do you want? Because they've been informed, oh, shit, LA is going to be attacked. And so he's like, what do I want? I want the world to burn. Ha, 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 ha. Like, he just does his evil, maniacal laugh. Which is
Yeah. I mean, basically, you see, and you think about a couple of the things he said, like, he doesn't like care about anyone, doesn't love any of the people, which apparently he also he created. Like
we find out that the people, that the bad guys, like the army of bad guys he has, are actually clones of his brothers' DNA.
Yeah,
like both brothers and their mom. Or I don't know.
No, both brothers and then like some kind of superhuman.
That's what
DNA,
it was. Yeah.
And it's like manipulated and like manufactured people.
Yeah, so like he just literally clones hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. And
just another reason. It's all cannon fodder to him. He does no care in the world.
Exactly.
And then he's like, they're like, well, why are you doing this? He's like, oh, well, because like, my family was the greatest and like I'm the only one left because I'm the greatest.
Yeah.
And fuck you. I don't care.
Exactly.
It's going to be me and no one else.
Exactly. And one thing I loved about this scene was, and this is so true. So the UN's like, you better not. That's an act of terrorism and I will sanction you through the United Nations or whatever. And he's like, oh no, I'm so scared. Like not a sanction. Don't slap me on the wrist.
He's like, you realize I love terrorism.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, all right? Fuck off. Gamora was built on terrorism. So, and then, it's just funny. You see, like, the UN guy be like, oh, I can't do anything. Like, he's like, why? And then Gamora's like, because I can. I'm like, that's why. So, yeah, it's just like, there's no reason or rhyme behind it. He just likes seeing people die, and he wants his symbol to be, like, known all over the world.
Yeah, and I love, he's, like, talking to them and, like, just kind of saying the same things like, yeah, I will dominate all. And he has like, I guess,
a servant
come in, and he takes one of his long fingernails and carves his symbol into her face,
like around her entire face.
Yeah, he like draws the circle and then like stays in a couple spots and digs in for
digs
the
in
knots.
the knots. Yeah,
like that's so creepy.
And also, like we said, he's actually literally making the knot on Earth. So he's like, I'm turning the Earth into my fucking territory. Like I'm claiming it basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a pretty badass villain. He's going all out. And then we cut to the carrier where the Authority are meeting, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to preemptively like strike and figure out what's going on, or like how to defeat Gamora. So they all convene, and they come to the conclusion that Midnighter will be going in stealthily undercover, and they don't show how he gets there. There's a force field around the whole island, but I'm assuming it maybe stops at the ocean top or something, because he's able to get in. So he can't teleport.
He's got his way. You know what? He worked out every way for it, and he
yeah, exactly. There you go. You know what? That's not a bad explanation. Maybe he knows with his power, like how to get in, kind of thing.
He knows the one weak spot or the one,
or
how to go under it. Or
his power is kind of like Domino from Deadpool, where like he can like it's not like she actually figures it out or knows it, but like just she's able to get through everything because
she's always lucky.
Yeah, but this is like he's reasons it out or whatever, but it's the same end result or whatever, something like that. Maybe that's why they don't really say. But anyway, he does end up going to Gamora Island, and he gets in somehow. We don't know, but he's there, and he's talking to them. It's nice that their telecommunications can also go through the force field as well. They don't explain any of this, but but it's just, hey, let's move the story forward, all right?
I'm in
Gamora, god damn it. And instantly as he's standing there saying he's in, a guard walks by and he like punches him, or a Midnighter punches the guard. And the guy is super powered because he just like
I guess we assume most of the people here are.
I assume, but yeah, he just like falls down and is like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing here? Why would you dare hit a guard of Gamora? Like, I am a senior guard or whatever rank he is. And then Midnighter's like, oh, well, my bad. And then like the next scene you see him, they're just fighting again. But then we cut to LA where the rest of the Authority has gone because they know the attack's going to happen. So I guess the plan is for Midnighter to go in and figure out how to like maybe turn off all these clones or whatever that are going on.
Yeah, get in, turn off the shield, and then like figure out a way to help.
Yeah, like maybe stop the cloning too.
Yeah,
you can just grow more and more and more. So yeah, and as the Authority get to LA, the clones begin to attack.
And
it's as you might say, John, it's the attack of the clones.
But literally, like the way they're drawn on this page is you have tons of big ones, and then they get smaller as they go away. But then there's like specks on the page of like human-esque forms in the background. It's like they're literally like thousands that are coming.
Yes. This is not a small thing. And then they said like, oh my god, like this must be like more and more battalions in reserve than we thought, because they're all coming. So then issue 4 starts with the fight with Midnighter and that guard guy continuing, and we see like this is where like you get the really good feel of like Midnighter just fucking loves punching people in the face. Like he's a big fan of that. He's even got spikes on his gloves that are kind of like little baby Wolverine claws. Yeah. and yeah, he's able to like take this guy out no problem. Even with superpowers, the guy tries to like
he never lands a blow on him.
Yeah, he never the guy never lands a blow on Midnighter. And and Midnighter's able to just beat the fuck out of him. Not a problem. Which is kind of cool. I mean, he's very, very good at fighting. Obviously because he knows
he's good at what he does.
Yeah. And what I do is murder people. Yeah. So he gets past the one guard. That's all he needed to beat was the one guard, and then he's like in the center of the town. So basically the bad guy's base was guarded by one guard in the alley, and then he gets past that guy, and then he walks up to the main gates. And then we cut back to the Authority, who are now like, okay, this is going to be a big fight. We got to do what we can to save L.A. And this was one of the cool things is the Doctor or the shaman, as he's also called, is like, oh shit, like I don't know if I could do this, because we find out as he goes into the shaman realm or whatever and goes to talk to all his shamans because he's scared. We find out that he's relatively new at this power. Like he says,
weeks new.
Yeah, he's like, I've only been doing this for like 2 weeks, and before that I was a junkie, like who just like read a lot of books about magic and shit. Like he's not prepared for this at all. But basically, because he's got all the wisdom of the past shamans in him, or through him, he is prepared. And they talk him, and they're like, "Don't worry, when you feel like you need us, we'll be there," kind of thing. And so he's like, "We live inside you. The power lives inside you." And so then he gets all like happy again. And then Jenny's like, "Doctor," as he like reappears in their realm. And he's like, "I'll do what I can do." And then he like does a Jesus pose, which is nice. And all this light beams out from him. And everyone, or like not everyone, but a really good big chunk of that giant force of clones they get turned into like shards of glass, but not real glass. Like it's not sharp or whatever, but it like it doesn't kill anybody or cut anybody. But it's definitely like maybe like
confetti glass.
There you go, confetti glass.
I don't.
It's candy glass, like in the movies. But yeah, so all of them turn into that, and then when they land, they just sprout into trees because you don't want to leave glass everywhere.
Yeah.
So all these trees begin to sprout out of the ground because he can convert matter into different types of matter. So he made all the bad guys trees, and he's like, "Hey, that was great. I feel awesome." And then as he says that, he basically has like a stroke from using so much power. And Jenny's like, "Oh my God, the doctor's down, and there's still people here." And so yeah, the clones were not all killed. That was just a good chunk of them. And Apollo is like, "Need a little help here, because it's just me versus like 25 of these guys, and they're all strong, and it's hand-to-hand combat, so I can't really fight all of these guys." And he's not getting any backup. Like everybody's busy because they're a fairly small team, and he keeps being like, anyone, I'm getting beat here, And the engineer is like, I can kind of see you. Okay, let me go help you. And so she finally goes over to him, and I thought this was fucking the coolest thing ever, because she's got like nano particles, right? Like, so she builds this like orb shield really quick out of like from her body that looks like little like a orb of lights surrounding her, like in a big like force field kind of thing. And basically what it is it's like all the nanites in the shape of little tiny knives and like razor blades basically. And as these fucking like clones fly into her or fly into that field of tiny knives, they basically just get like turned into chopped liver. Like every one of them they turn into dust, like literally molecule size particles. Their bodies get turned into that. Just they literally flew into a blender and they didn't know. It was fucking awesome. I thought that was like so crazy when I read that. I was like, that is such a cool power. I also like that these are heroes and they don't have a problem murdering anybody. So
just killing.
To be fair, these are all clones, so they don't have souls.
I just love killing.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, you get like a good sense of everybody gets to show their powers kind of fully here. Even like Swift, who's the birdwing woman, she has. I didn't know this or notice this before, but she has actual like bird talons as feet along with her wings.
Oh well, I didn't notice that either.
Yeah, she has bird talons, and I think she has like claws on her hands as well that are like bird.
Okay, so yeah, she scratched you good too.
Yes, and then Jack Hawksmoor is just punching through people's faces like always. Like we don't really know what his power is, but goddamn it, he can punch through a face. You know what I'm saying?
Grant me the strength of this city, and by strength I mean like I'm holding up this entire city in my fist.
Yes, exactly. And so then we cut back to Midnighter, who is. I love this. We just cut to him walking down like one of those like sci-fi walkways that goes into the middle of a big open room, like in every sci-fi movie where there's like some kind of engine or machine, and there's always like an orb in the middle of the center of this gigantic room. And there's much like Star Wars, where like they're inside the reactor. Or
Yeah.
whatever. And so he's walking down this pathway, and you just see behind him just like body after body after body. Like he just punched his way through all these guards. And then so he's at the cloning station, basically. This is where all the clones are made. He's like, oh my God, so many clones. And then Gamora comes out, and he's like, so I see you found my clones. And he's pointing a little crossbow at him, which I thought was funny. It's a very dainty, small crossbow, which is it just looks extra small in his little hands. But the Midnighter, he's not phased at all, and he's like, "So you've discovered my plan of clones and all this stuff, and with this, I will conquer the world," kind of thing. And you know what? I guess we were wrong about how Midnighter got there, because we thought that if there's a force field, you can't put a portal inside of Gamora, but apparently that's not true. I guess because they needed to stop the attack on LA, that's why they separated and sent Midnighter into here to try to either stop what's going on or figure out how to take down the force field. And so Midnighter is talking to him, realizes, I can't take down this. There's no way to take down this force field. So he has the carrier open a portal so that he can just leave. And because Kaizen Gamora was like, you cannot leave here. You are stuck here with the force field. And he's like, sees the portal open. He's like, interesting. Like, how come I didn't know that could happen? Kind of thing. He seems very perplexed, just as we were reading this and going like, wait, I thought you couldn't open a force field there or a portal here. And then, so the portal closes after Midnighter, and Midnighter's got an idea. The idea is like, you can't basically, what can you hit something that's like a force field that's super strong with that will be able to take it on or destroy it? It's got to be something bigger and stronger and like more mass and harder than the force field. So he gets an idea, and he's like, hey, carrier, how can I move you? And he's like trying to talk to the ship, basically like I need carrier to work for me. Do the thing I want you to do. And he's like, how do I get you to move? God damn it. So he doesn't know, but he's trying to like talk to it like from the inside out, which I thought was funny. Like, can it hear him? I guess?
Hey, are you listening to me up there?
Yeah. So then we cut back to the fight in LA, and we just see like burning bodies of these of these clones just raining from the sky. Just they've been electrocuted by Jenny, and they're just falling from the sky. And so then Midnighter eventually does talk to Carrier and convinces Carrier to go where he tells him. And where he tells him to go is Gamora Island. And he's flying the Carrier full speed. Like it just teleports there from out the dimension world or whatever, the dimensional plane. So it's like not there, and then all of a sudden it's there. And then it's flying at whatever warp speed or whatever, and it just tears through the fucking entire force field, and I think also like the city, right? Like it scratches directly through the city. I mean, there are people living on Gamora that are not bad people, I'm assuming.
I assume so.
But guess what? Fuck those guys, because their leader's bad. This is like if Kim Jong-il kind of thing here. Like, if you go to war.
You just like took a plane and like landed it through the town.
Yeah, just through Pyongyang or whatever and into the Capitol building or whatever to get at Kim Jong-il. So, this was funny. So you see, like, just imagine like seconds ago or like minutes ago maybe, Gamora was talking to Midnighter, being like, "You will never defeat me," haha. And then he like just disappeared through a portal. He's like, "Interesting." And then he's like, "Well, I guess I'll go get some coffee in my office." So he goes up to the next floor or whatever, the top floor, and he's looking out his big ass window, and all of a sudden, this giant ship comes out of nowhere, just appears going full speed, and hits through the town, and just is going straight towards the headquarters, and just totally runs through the entire building and just murders Gamora. And then Midnighter just is saying to himself, "I love being me." Like as this place or as this spaceship just tears apart everything. So and then even Gamora says, "But I only wanted to have some fun." Like that's all I was doing. And he just gets murdered and kills and tears apart the whole building. So Then we get to Los Angeles. The battle is over. The Authority have won. Los Angeles looks pretty wrecked, I'll say.
Yeah, they don't do the best job at actually, like, I mean, maybe they save some people, but
I could understand if the Superhuman Registration Act was enabled here. I'm just saying. Yeah, but like LA downtown looks a lot like Skid Row now or whatever. So maybe the Authority did go through. But anyway, so they're done, and we get to see Apollo with his costume all ripped. His costume is like is all white leotard with like you said, the little sun,
like some gold.
Yeah, sunbeam, and there's like a gold symbol on his chest. So like his suit's all torn up. So like he's basically just got like the barest of leggings left, and the rest of his body's like naked, and it's all tattered and hanging off, and basically they're just like, good job, team. And Jenny Sparks is like, well, back to the carrier, we've done all we can, and let's leave these guys to clean up the mess.
Another successful adventure.
Exactly. And that's the end of the first story arc of this series. So as I said at the beginning, we didn't really get much of Apollo and Midnighter's relationship in this story arc, but if you read the next story arc, the last chapter has the reveal that Midnighter and Apollo are in a relationship. They are a couple, and specifically the first page of issue 8 of this series has like the scene where we get them actually like talking as a couple, and it's because Midnighter's helping Apollo after like a battle, I'm assuming, with some bad guys, and you get to see them like Apollo's like leaning on him, and they're like talking to each other, like they obviously care for each other. And Midnighter's telling Apollo that like you can't go back out there because he wants to go fight the bad guys again because something's going on. We didn't read this story arc, but something's going on out there. So, and he's like, I'll just go like fly to the sun and get charged or whatever, and it'll be fine. And Midnighter's like, no, you'll die if you go out there. And then we get like them kiss and like a touching moment of their relationship, and that was like the first time I think that they show like them kiss, and like the reveal to the reader that yes, they are indeed a couple. So like I said, that is like one of the best couples that a gay couple that I've read, and just couple in general in a comic series, especially a superhero comic series. I don't know, they did a really good job of like building them as a team, and then specifically Midnighter and Apollo are always like together in rooms, and like they came together on the spaceship at first, like when Jenny called them and stuff. So you could tell, like, oh, okay, like it makes sense when you go back and read. Oh yeah, like they were setting this all up. It wasn't like a random thing that they were like, let's throw this in. So yeah, I just want to point that out because, like I said, it wasn't really like a thing in this first miniseries. But anyway, so John, after reading this, what would you give it? What did you think of it?
I liked it. Again, I looked at it in the context, like you said, it's the 90s. And it's one of those takes where, like they're kind of like ahead of their time as far as like, being progressive with some of the things in the comic, as far as like being a little edgier, have, death right away. Like they're actually showing people purple get it obliterated, like Terminator.
You have heroes killing people and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. You got the heroes killing people. And then you have a couple. Yeah. So for the LGBT community. So
yes, and so with that, I mean, there have been a lot of different things after this that kind of feel the same. I'll say like this kind of feels like Ultimates to me.
Yeah,
there's like that was like the edgy version of the Avengers. So there's a lot more violence in that. There's a lot more, and it ups the ante on everything. So I felt like this is kind of like the predecessor of those things. So if you like those things and you read this, you might be like, this kind of feels like a more basic version of the stuff that I like. But I would say that this whole series overall actually gets, it only gets better as you read further. And then also those things took from it. So like, this was like a groundbreaker kind of thing. But anyway, what would you give this one, John?
I would say overall, like you said, the art is really fantastic in it. I like the designs, especially of Apollo and
Midnighter.
Midnighter, yeah. I don't know. I forgot all this.
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knighter. Yeah, Midnighter. I like their costumes, and I like some of the the unique powers that we didn't quite get like a full breakdown of, but like there's definitely some unique things that I kind of would love to see like fleshed out, like
Yes.
especially Jack, like his city powers.
Yeah, what does his city powers
What
mean? I
exactly
know they
is
go into
all
that
of
later. I know they
So
go into that.
just
later.
that's a really unique one that I was like, oh, like there's a lot of interesting things I feel like this could go with. So.
Yeah, let's hope no battles are in the middle of like Junction City, Texas, or something, because there ain't much power there.
Tumbleweed power.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he's not he doesn't even have like hard punches. They're just like, did you tap my face? Like, what
yeah.
was that?
Ow! Stop! You're being annoying. You're scratching my face with weed powers.
So yeah, but yeah, I liked it a lot, and like you said, it was fun to read one where, like at first I was like, this is a little corny, and then I was like, oh no, okay, they're just like.
Yeah, don't get bogged down by the
don't
details.
don't get bogged down by things. It's just let it happen. I was like, that was nice to read because yeah, like you said, especially being like a Star Wars fan, sometimes you're like, I want to know every little detail and like where all these things connect and how everything works. But it was just kind of nice to be like, all right, they got a ship that they can, show up anywhere whenever they need to. Okay.
Right. Well, and the other thing
That's
is like,
convenient.
it's kind of like they don't have all these like it's not like Superman where you have like 80 years of continuity or whatever. It's like this is the first beginning of it, so we can just like throw that shit out there at first, get the story moving, and then we can maybe explain things later on. Because I know later on things get deeper dived into and everything, and so.
Well, and maybe that's one way to beat that initial the initial dive when you go into characters and you kind of
because that stuff can be kind of daunting when you first read it, and it's the first trade or whatever.
Especially with, like we said, like some of their powers seem like very unique and distinct.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a better way to look at it. This is one way to kind of get over that initial hump that you get sometimes reading the origin story of a character.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Yeah, fuck the origin story. Just they already have it. We already have this. Just move forward. And anyway, they're fighting a bad guy, and we get to see a little bit of their stuff, make you interested in them, and then we'll flesh that out later.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, don't worry, we'll get to all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just sit back and enjoy.
Exactly.
So yeah, so overall, I would say I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay, cool. I'm going to give this one this arc specifically. And give it a 6. No, I'm sorry, a 6.5. That's what I'm gonna. I was thinking 6.5 because it's the introduction, right? So it's not. It's kind of throwing you in there, and then it's like, hey, check out all this cool shit, but we don't really flesh it out, obviously. But I thought it was a really strong story as a start off. It's kind of like I said, a popcorn blockbuster. You read this really fast. It's 4 issues, so like no harm, no foul if you don't like it. And if you do like it, just keep reading. It's great. So like, and I think the whole series is a total of 24 issues. So there's 12 of Warren Ellis writing, and then there's 12 of Mark Miller writing. And Mark Miller, who is fucking super huge now, but he is the creator of Wanted, Kick-Ass. He wrote The Ultimates that ended up being like the main inspiration for all the Avengers movies that came out. Or at least like the Captain America and that kind of stuff. And then also he did the Kingsman. So just super big writer now. Yeah. And this was like his early stuff. This is him cutting his teeth, trying to like make his voice, work on making his own unique voice kind of thing. Yeah. So it's a really good series. I really love it. And if this intrigued you at all, definitely check it out. I know on Hoopla, they have like both volumes up there to read, which is like 12 issues within 12 issues. So nice. You could power through it if you wanted, and or just go buy it because it is fantastic. I would highly recommend The Authority, all of it, or at least this first run. I know later on they get to like the Midnighter has a mini series and some other characters have mini series, but I didn't read the mini series on Midnighter. That came out when I was at the comic book store, and I was just kind of like, oh, it's not written by Warren Ellis or Mark Miller or Grant Morrison, so. Don't care. Yeah, I didn't know who the writer was. It ended up being Chuck Dixon, who I would probably read now because he wrote all the like Batman Nightfall stuff in the 90s and all the Batman stuff in the 90s, like Nightwing, Birds of Prey, like all that stuff. So
nice.
Robin, all that, like that was all him. So I was like, oh, I didn't know that at the time, but I would probably go back and read that now just to see how it is. But not my favorite writer, but I think he can carve a story if he, pretty good if he's got the right motivations and stuff. But yeah, so switching gears here, we're gonna talk about our Patreon, because we had a poll this week on what we're gonna read, like viewers' choice poll on what we're gonna read this month, and because we have like a small amount of Patreon members this month, we are going to we put 4 characters out. Like, what do you want to read? We said Deadpool, we said the Spectre, we said Hawkman. What was the other one? Animal Man.
Animal Man.
And we got back the votes, and we had a tie between Animal Man and the Spectre. So instead of just doing one of those, we're gonna
do both.
Both. So we are going to be reading next week The Spectre from the 90s, and it is by John Ostrander is the writer. And I have read this specific trade that we're going to read, but John has not. What do you know about The Spectre, John?
The only thing I know, we saw him a little in, I think like one of the Infinite Crisis or one of the Crisis series.
Yes.
And I know that he, at least one iteration of him is he was a cop. He died in the Force, and then he got some kind of power to like come back and be kind of like judgment of people. Okay.
So yeah, there's actually been 3 Spectres. 3? Yeah, I think only 3. There's been Jim Corrigan, which is the one we're going to read. He's the original one from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And then there was the Hal Jordan Spectre, because when Hal Jordan died, when he turned evil and then died.
Oh, after he
died killing Parallax or whatever, he becomes a Spectre. Then Rebirth happened. He comes back and he becomes Green Lantern again. Yeah, and then in a little series called Gotham Central, which is fantastic and we need to read sometime, which is the Gotham PD like comic book. Basically, it's like crime as through the lens of Gotham PD. So it follows Renee Montoya a lot, and that's like the first time she was ever like really featured in a book. She's always been like kind of in the background since she was introduced in the animated show, I believe. And then they like barely threw her in the comics right when that happened. And then she's always just been like Bullock's partner or just in the background until Gotham Central happened, and they focus on her, and then also her partner Crispus Allen, who dies in line of duty and becomes the next Spectre after. So
nice. We
are going to read the one from the late 80s, early 90s. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 93. 90s, 90s. And that is the John Ostrander one. And so that's like a good introduction, because what I've read of it, it gives the whole like what happened to Jim Corrigan and the backstory of the stuff from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And then just jumps into like cool like stories. And I'm not even sure if there's like full, like it's written back in the day. So it's not like nowadays everything is a full 6-issue story arc or whatever. Now, back in the day, they'd be like, here's one issue and it's done. Here's the next issue and it's done. So like these are just fun stories, I think. So we'll just kind of pick like a number of which ones we want to do, and then like just do that many. So so we're going to do that. And then the following week, we're going to do Animal Man. We're going to do the Grant Morrison run from the 1980s. I think it's 1988 that came out. We're going to do the first trade from that. And then we're even going to later on, maybe in a couple weeks after that, jump to the Jeff Lemire run and do a trade from that. So be prepared for some Animal Man. It'd be fantastic. I love this run. John has never read it, but he's excited. I could tell by the look on his face.
Yeah, no, I am actually really excited about Animal Man. Actually, Animal Man has been in our list to read
for a very long time,
for almost as long as we've had our podcast.
Yeah,
it was one of the first ones that we talked about, and Matt brought it up. Like, it sounded really cool, and I think that we started out like doing like kind of like whatever, and then we're like, okay, no, we're gonna do a little more like kind of gauging like public interest.
Yeah, like what? Like, oh, hey, Batman gets a lot of hits.
Yeah, people like Batman. We should read some more Batman. And then we're like, we can't be the Batman podcast, so we read other stuff. And then Matt's like, oh, we're the DC podcast, and I was like, no, we're not just the DC podcast.
We're not, but we are.
So yeah, but anyway, so I am excited to check out Animal Man, and we'll. I know that July is going to be packed with stuff too. We have a couple things on the.
Yeah, it was Shark Week's in July.
Yeah,
right?
Shark Week's in July. We got Lady Thor in July. So there's a lot of fun stuff.
For sure, we'll do that. But if you'd like to vote on these polls, like if you want to actually invest in your listening experience, and pick something that, like even if we have a couple more people, we might still throw in like, hey, if there's a tie or whatever, we'll do one or two of these picks. So until we get like millions of patrons, and then we'll have to just do one. But but yeah, we're gonna switch up the poll too. It's not just gonna be based on characters. Sometimes we'll do genres. Sometimes we'll do companies. So whatever, we'll throw some stuff out there.
Yeah, and we'll do like, do you want us to read like a manga? We haven't done a manga in a while. Do you want to, or do you want a series or something?
Yeah. So if you would like to join that, our Patreon is patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And we would love if you would join us. Also, one of the tiers on there is the Hellblazer Matt's Minis. So if you are enjoying the Swamp Thing Matt's Minis, I'm doing the same thing for Hellblazer over there. And right now we have a special going on for our super fan tier. So it's cheaper right now for the limited number of people. So jump on that if you're at all interested in learning about our favorite magus or magus, whatever you want to call him, and our favorite laughing magician, we'll call him. And yeah, I love Hellblazer so much. So him and Swamp Thing are my two favorite characters in DC, and I just love deep diving into all their stuff. And I've heard from some of our patrons on that they love that character now a lot too. Like they're enjoying the series and how fucked up it is and weird and stuff. So
nice.
If you at all are interested, check that out. Once again at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books. And if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget about our Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. We've also got our TikTok up and running as well.
Yes.
So make sure to like, share, subscribe, get on all of the different social medias we got going on to make sure you're informed and you see what we got coming out, because there's a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah, John's been doing some trailers, trailer reactions, and episode reactions or reviews, I guess, of Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and we're
I'm gonna do Miss Marvel, actually, the first episode of Miss Marvel, and I'll give you just a little spoiler for the whole thing. I actually really like the show so far.
Let me guess, John. You liked it.
Yeah, no, but for real, actually, like the first episode, I was really impressed with, especially how it was shot. Like the director on this show, aces, like,
tip top.
Yeah, like it was really, really well done.
All right, cool. Maybe I'll check it out. Probably not, but I'll check it out. Maybe we'll see. Probably not, but
no, we'll see. I will say one thing: after reading Miss Marvel last week and then seeing the hint of her powers in that first episode, I am really curious to see how they're going to
how big her hands get,
how they're going to, what kind of shifting of her powers they are doing, like how far they're doing that. So
yeah,
that'll be interesting.
Cool. Well, with that being said, we will see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.